With the unveiling of 3 new franchises for the 2026 season, Mike Rapoli, the newest member of the ownership group, who seems to be making this league his own, has announced that all 8 franchises will be receiving new uniforms for the upcoming season. In today's video, we will be reviewing the looks of all 8 franchises from the 2025 season to prepare for the unveiling of the new uniforms. I'll be giving each team my own subjective ranking to see if the 2026 designs offer major improvements or are major downgrades. This video will feature my own personal opinions on the previous look, so if you disagree, be sure to tell me just exactly how wrong I am down in the comments below. Starting at number 8, I have the Arlington Renegades. If you know me, you'll know that I wasn't a big fan of their 2023 redesign, and unfortunately, that includes the uniforms. To be fair, I do love the colors. This shade of blue, which I don't know if it counts as a baby blue, but it does look great on the field, and I do believe it needs to be used more in sports. But I think for the Renegades, they just need a little bit of a better balance. To me, a uniform's main job is to visually represent the personality or character of a team, and this is especially important in a league when there's not a lot of history. When you're being seen by people who don't know what the UFL or spring football is, you want your team to have a specific look that tells people exactly who you are. And when it comes to a name as distinctive as the Renegades, I think the design they went with missed the mark. To me, a renegade is someone like an outlaw. They're someone who is rough and someone you don't want to mess with. So personally, I think you want to use more dark colors in the uniform to show off that kind of bad boy look. This is something that the XFL in 2020 did well with their design. I mean, this is a team that has motorcycles lead them out onto the field and a bandit on their helmet, so I don't think looking like a bunch of blueberries is the right look. They have some black elements on their uniforms, but I don't think they really go anywhere that's super striking. Like, they have these backpack straps on the shoulders and a broken stripe down the side of the pant, which to me look pretty cool, but it's a big missed opportunity to add more styling to their look. I think as someone who's watched a ton of Renegades games, it feels like the design team really wanted to make these uniforms striking, which is the same as they did with pretty much all the designs from the 2023 XFL, but I don't think they had a very clear idea for the identity they wanted to give this team. We'll see this again later when we get to my Roughnecks, but this idea is especially seen in their away uniforms. It's fun to have away uniforms that really change up a team's look, but for me, this design doesn't really mesh well with the helmet. I'm not from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but as a Houstonian, I can't help but see the Oilers when I see these away uniforms, and whenever there's already a Houston team, it seems a bit weird for the team based in Arlington to have this. Since they changed up the colors so much for the away uniform, the blue and black helmet really makes it feel a little bit top heavy. I might be biased, of course, with these. I still have trauma from the Perez Renegades knocking the Roughnecks out of the playoffs in 2023 wearing these uniforms, but I do really love the colors, especially when players rock the red sleeves and gloves. So it just irks me that these uniforms could have been so cool if just a few things were changed. Hopefully we see a darker, more bad boy aesthetic happen for the 2026 season with the new Dallas Renegades. Number 7 is the Memphis Showboats. When the UFL revealed the refreshed looks for the USFL teams, I thought the Showboats were the most improved. I find it interesting that there seems to be a trend in spring football jersey designs to include kind of a shoulder mantle, and you see it with a few of the other teams. Here the Showboats use it where they have their signature yellow for their home jersey and a navy blue for their away. I go back and forth on if I like it or not, since it kind of comes down to how teams individually pull it off, and unfortunately I don't really think it works super well for the Showboats. I'm a sucker for blue teams is what I found out, and I love the color and the contrast that they have, and I think it just works better on their away uniform when you have that mantle to match the helmet, and it makes it feel a little bit more streamlined. So I'm sorry to the Yacht Club, but something about all that yellow on their home jerseys just doesn't really do it for me. I think since all the other yellow elements of the uniform show up in sharp dashes or lines, like the yellow sharpened strip on their pants or on their helmet and even on their logo, I think that it should have a similar look on their jersey. Maybe a yellow collar would work a little bit better and feel a bit more balanced, or maybe adding something to the mantle can make it feel less huge and just blocky on the body. But unfortunately, with them being one of the 3 teams that are being shelved for the 2026 season, it may be a while before we can see these uniforms again. Coming in at number 6 is the St. Louis Battlehawks. While writing this, I've moved the rankings for the Battlehawks all around the list, and it's tough because I really do like these uniforms, but I just really like the uniforms of all the other teams too. I decided to rank them here because the design feels kind of safe. I don't know if that's the right term to use. I have the same criticism for other teams' uniforms as well, but I feel like more could have been done to really make this design their own. I really love the Battlehawks helmets, easily one of the top 3 helmets in the league right now, but the jersey just doesn't match the energy. It's hard to do silver well on jerseys, but I think I'd like to see more of that present in their uniform. I never want to fault a team for sticking with their colors and to be fine with just having a bold color do the talking, but with a silver helmet, it feels like there's just too much blue sometimes. I don't want to beat a dead horse talking about the 2020 designs for the XFL teams, but I really liked their use of silver pants in their home and away uniforms. It gave those looks a little bit more depth and made them a bit more interesting to look at. On a similar note, I think the Battlehawks ranked a little bit lower because in my opinion, their away uniform suffers from a similar problem where they feel two-dimensional because there's really only two colors. I'll come back to this point later with another team, but while I appreciate the attempt to give the away uniform a distinctive look that isn't just mostly white, I feel like having it be light gray just doesn't pop as much. Maybe that's the big assessment for these uniforms, is that I think they look good, great in parts, but they just don't really pop to me. I do love the details that they put into the design, and we'll talk a lot more about how this looks later in the video, but I am a sucker for these little details, and namely, I love the arch motifs that they have, like on the shoulders and on the helmet, and I like the font that they picked for the numbers to connect with the military inspiration for the team. A part of me wishes that they leaned into those elements a little bit more to make this uniform more distinctive. Coming in at number 5 is the Birmingham Stallions. Ranking the Stallions is tough, because like any team that wins all the time but isn't your team, you're just filled with like blinding hatred and jealousy when you see their uniforms. But you know, trying to push that bias aside, I think that these are really solid football uniforms. I like the colors and the fact that they look like a classic team. I think better than any of the other teams, these uniforms give off the vibe that this team has existed for a while and has refined their look down over the years. I mean, this isn't really the case. They've been around for a little bit, but they do give off that vibe to me. I think that's a huge strength for the Stallions, but also it can be a weakness in the sense that to someone who isn't knowledgeable about spring football, they might just come off as generic. I've seen when the Stallions are playing, people commenting things like, oh, are the 49ers playing? Or like, oh, is this a Chiefs rerun? I think the Stallions have a really nice design that sells their identity as a no-nonsense football team that really isn't trying anything fancy just because they've been around, they are better than you, and they want you to know. Or, you know, at least that's my opinion as someone who's way too involved in the sport. I love a nice, clean, classic look, but I'm also a little bit of a liar because I absolutely love when designers put little details on their designs. It's a great way to show that you've placed a great amount of attention into the design, or to have allusions to the identity of the team or city. It's those little things that can have fans fall in love with a look, even if it isn't necessarily the best in the league. It's something I feel like is a missed opportunity by the design team here, and it's something I'd love to see them reapproach as they design uniforms for the 2026 season for Birmingham. At number 4, you have the Houston Roughnecks. Okay, I do acknowledge that this placement is a bit biased because I think if I didn't live in Houston, the Necks would rank a lot lower on my list. And there's some things I would want to see changed. I remember whenever the look was revealed before the 2023 season, I was very critical of it. But, you know, as I've said before, I'm a fan of little detail. And as someone who's definitely followed the Roughnecks through thick and thin, I've grown really attached to this specific look. I think the Roughnecks uniforms have some of the best designs in terms of depth and detail. We're a red, white, and blue team that really uses the color to their fullest to make elements of the uniform pop and be visually clear through the detail. Like I said, when these were shown off, I had pretty big issues. I was like the #1 hater of this uniform probably. I mean, to start off with, a big strike for me was the fact that I was expecting the league to stick pretty closely with their designs from 2020, just with a redone logo. So when they showed these off, I really couldn't pick out which team was supposed to be the Houston team. They did look kind of generic, if I'm being honest, and they looked a little bit too similar to the Texans colors, since we went from being mainly a red team to a blue team. And like seemingly everyone, I also had issues with the helmet design, but we'll get into that a little bit later. This is a good example of why my personal ranking is subjective, because once the game started getting played and I went with family and friends to games, I grew to love these goofy little designs. I used to not like the mantle, but now I feel kind of an affinity for other fellow mantle teams. You know, it's something that kind of binds us together. I really love the detail when it comes to the gradient on the numbers and on the pant legs, and the detail is one of the reasons why this really won me over, since they used an oil splatter design, which is a reference to, you know, that Roughnecks name in Houston's oil industry. I just think that's kind of a cool look. That said, even my own attachment isn't enough to blind me to the parts that don't work. For starters, there's, I think, too many numbers and logos on this uniform. A player's number is shown like 5 times, which is just a bit too many, and the logo shows up 4 times, once on the helmet, twice on the jersey, and once on the pants. I like detail more than the average guy, but that's getting a little bit into the overdesigned range, just a bit. And to tackle the elephant in the room, we should probably talk about the helmet. I go back and forth on it. Sometimes I hate it, sometimes the Texan in me loves it, but at the end of the day, I think it's not the look I would go for. According to my girlfriend, it is her favorite part of the jersey, and generally it is an out there design decision, so I absolutely respect the guts to try something new. But on the other hand, I just don't think it sticks the landing for a few reasons. For starters, it's not very Houston. Like, sure, it's a Texas flag, but you know, this was played when there's 2 other Texas teams, so it kind of seems like it was made by a design team that thought that this was the only Texas franchise. Finally, and for me most importantly, it kind of looks like a fish bobber from the side. Like, I'm just saying, it's a little bit too big of a design to clearly see what they want to from all angles. In the future, if they want to do a Roughnecks look again, or if the Roughnecks somehow return, I think they'd probably just want to do like a full Navy helmet. Unfortunately for me, but maybe fortunately for you, the UFL is rebranding the Roughnecks to the Gamblers, so we can expect to see a total redesign to match that identity. Even though I'm gonna miss my Necks, I'll be excited to see how they style the new jerseys. Hopefully they can split the middle ground, at least, you know, for me personally. Coming in at number 3 is the San Antonio Brahmas. When the XFL was first showing off the uniforms for the 2023 reboot, I loved these uniforms. A part of me wished that I was living in San Antonio, so this could be my second team. I guess that monkey paw did curl when Coach Phillips and company was moved over there with the merger. I absolutely love when teams do unique things with their helmets and don't just slap their logo on it. I love it with the Eagles and the NFL, and I talked about my love for the Battlehawks helmet in the same way. I think the horns pointing forward is a pretty cool look. I was sold whenever I saw a clip of a running back in practice rocking them while rocking a dude to the floor. I like the colors they picked for the team too. I mean, you can't convince me that they didn't go with an almost black and yellow look for the team since Hines Ward was the head coach in 2023. I'm glad that they made it look a little bit different and didn't just make the team look like the Pittsburgh Brahmas. The dark gray is, I think, a great match for the yellow on their home jerseys, and I love the styling around the collar. I'm not super knowledgeable about Latin American design, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's a great way to tie into the Latin American culture of San Antonio. But like all things, no design is perfect, and there are a few things that I'd like to see get worked on in the future if we see the San Antonio Brahmas return. For starters, I think their away uniforms are kind of a sore to look at. Like with the Battlehawks, I can appreciate trying to think outside the box and not just go with a standard white for their away uniform, but in this case, I think it would probably be better and help balance out how dark their home uniforms are. Like if they took inspiration for how to handle yellow and white from the Showboats away uniform, I think they'd look so clean. Speaking of yellow, I really think they should try to make the yellow bands on the home uniforms just a little bit smaller. To me, they feel just a little bit too big and they give me Orlando Guardian flashbacks. Maybe if they incorporate some of the designs on the collar, it would make it feel a little less huge on the shoulders and pants. And finally, with the horns, I think they should have decided if they wanted to have weathered lines on the entire uniform or none at all. It's a neat bit of detail, but it's kind of the only place they show up, so it could definitely simplify it in the future. I'm definitely going to miss this look next year, and it's just going to be sad to not be going up against the San Antonio Brahmas. Coming in at number 2 is the Michigan Panthers. Now, if you know me in real life and you had the misfortune of being around me whenever I saw these, I could not physically hold myself back from gushing over these uniforms. There's something about them that I just absolutely love. The champagne and plum color just fits so well together, and paired with the metallic helmet is just a chef's kiss. Now, when it comes to the helmet, I am a sucker for unique helmets, and these are some of the best. It's a great translation of their logo, and the way the panther head just kind of like rolls up the side of the neck and hits onto the side of the helmet just fits so well. It really gives me 2020 Seattle Dragons vibes. I don't really know what the league has against great helmets, but the Panthers might have been too clean for this world since they are one of the teams that have been relocated. The shade of blue is just such a good accent color, and it really pops when you see it in person. Like the Stallions, this jersey does a great job at appearing very classic and like it's been around for ages. The only reason why this isn't number 1 and trust me, I really tried to get it to be number 1, is just because it's lacking that specific market detail that I absolutely love. This is a subjective opinion, so if you're someone who likes it classic and simple, then more power to you. I just think that these would be really awesome if they had small touches that really connected them to Michigan or Detroit. It's going to be such a shame that we won't be seeing these hit the field next season. So here's hoping we can see a quick return for such a great look in 2028. And coming in at number 1 is the DC Defenders. I mean, how can you not love these uniforms? I was a little bit skeptical whenever the XFL first showed off the design before the 2023 season, since they were ditching the all-red 2020 look for a white helmet, but man did they do a good job of making these things look good. I love the camo/marbled look that they have on the helmets. The league said it was to pay homage to DC's military history, but to me, it just looks kind of more like the marble and all the monuments into the buildings that they have at the Capitol. The white helmet adds some visual contrast to not make them look too monotone, and it makes the away uniforms one of the best in the whole league, especially matching the marbled mantles, showing all the other teams how to do a mantle right, in my opinion. I especially love the little touches on the shoulders where they add the stars and stripes of the Washington DC flag, and it's just such a good choice. You know, I love flags, so seeing that was just so cool. I mean, it makes me feel like the Roughnecks design team saw that when like, shoot, we need a flag on ours too, and just slapped it on the helmet. The only thing I'd love to see here is for them to adopt the lightning bolts down the legs like they had in 2020. They added some fun details and matched the classic original Minutemen logo. When the league does their uniform refresh for 2026, they absolutely need to keep the changes here a minimum. I think that these looks are about as perfect as you can get for spring football, and whenever they're on the field, there is always a great uniform match. So what are your thoughts on uniforms from last season? Which teams are you excited to see get a refresh, and which are you going to miss the most? As always, thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more spring football content. With new franchises and a new season on the horizon, you definitely want to subscribe to stay up to date with all the exciting new info coming our way. This is Logan with Alt Football Archive. Thank you for watching.